everyone, and welcome. So great to see you all here today. I'm Liz, I'm the Content Marketing Manager for Zenfolio, and I'm thrilled to be joined by Jeff Cable. He's a photographer whose work has appeared in some of the biggest stages in the world, including the Olympic Games. Amanda and Zach from the Zenfolio team are here in the chat also to answer your questions. Amanda's based in Maine and Zach is based in Hawaii, and they're both photographers, so they'll be very well positioned to answer any questions you might have. Today we'll explore creativity, technique, storytelling, and the realities of working across very different worlds, including high-action sports and intimate events. Before we get started, feel free to drop a quick hello in the chat. It's always nice to see where everyone's coming from today. And also what type of photography you shoot. It's always nice to hear what our community do for their work. You'll also see a Q&A tab just next to the chat. If you have any questions as we go, pop them in there and we'll come back to them later in the session. And just for a little bit of housekeeping, if you do accidentally drop your questions into the chat, we'll move it over to the Q&A tab. We're not deleting any questions, I promise. It's just easier to manage if we keep them all in one place. So let's get started. Today's session is one I'm really personally excited about. We're going behind the lens with someone whose work is quite literally played out in one of the biggest stages in the world, the Olympic Games. And we're talking about creativity, technique, storytelling, what it really looks like to work across two very different photography worlds, high-speed sports, more intimate personal events, and also some other exciting projects that Jeff's involved in. So, Jeff, really pleased to be joined by you today, Team USA photographer and someone who's built an incredible career capturing both once-in-a-lifetime global moments and also other everyday events for his clients. Jeff brings a really unique perspective, not just on how to shoot, but how to sustain a long, successful photography business across different types of work. So whether you're shooting sports, events, portraits, or you're just trying to balance different types of photography in your own business, there's going to be a lot here that you can take away. So here's a quick look at what we're going to cover today. We'll start with Jeff's journey into photography and how it led to becoming the Team USA's Olympic photographer. We'll talk about what it's really like behind the scenes at the Olympics, including some of the standout moments and images. We're going to get into some gear and settings and technical approaches for shooting fast-moving subjects. We're also going to have a look at how Jeff balances sports photography with other event work and how he continues to stay creative over time. And of course, we'll touch on how Zenfolio supports his workflow, from organization through to client delivery and everything in between. And then at the end, we're going to open things up for a live Q&A. So Jeff, let's start from the beginning. For those who are meeting you for the first time, how did you get into photography? Was there any moment where you knew this was the path for you? And how did that journey eventually lead to becoming Team USA's Olympic photographer?
It was actually a strange start for me because I was in technology for so long, and I really loved shooting and working, but that was, I didn't see this as my future. I just enjoyed it so much. And then the passion of photography just kept growing. And when I started, as director of marketing and we were, I was involved with all the photographers and saw what they did and just learning from them, that passion grew even more. And I thought I could do this. And so I just, one to another, and I ended up in the tech world after a long time and doing this full time. And the Olympics was something that I did back in 2008. I was not fully credentialed at the time. I was partially credentialed, but I thought, this is what I want to do. And so I just worked really hard. It took me many, many years to get my foot in the door with Team USA. And which is hard to even believe. Here I am. So, yeah, it's been an incredible journey for me. A lot of fun, a lot of work, a lot of stress, a lot of fun.
Brilliant. Well, thank you for that. That's really interesting. I just wanted to have a quick dive into the chat here because we've got a lot of people who have just joined us. So we've got people from, let's say, Maryland. We've got Denmark, Sacramento. We've got Edmonton, Canada, Ireland. Gosh, we're really multinational here today. Alaska, the UK. We've got Sherry from McCall. We've got from Iowa, another Hawaii. Well, that's Zach, actually. We've got Claire from Scotland, Magnus from Sweden. Fantastic. Really welcome, everyone. It's fantastic to see such an international range of people we've got here today. So thank you. Keep those messages coming in. I'll duck back in here every now and again to say hi to you all.
Yeah, I've seen it as well. It's interesting to see people from so many different places and look at what they photograph, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Jeff, just to pop in for a second, I'm getting some questions about your audio. It was working great before we started, but I don't know if there's something you can do really quickly to just get that fixed up. It's some people are having trouble hearing. Thank you.
Oh, I think we've lost you again there, Jeff.
Thank you for working on this.
While Jeff does that, let's go back through some of these chats that we've got here. We've got Angela from Illinois, Ricky from the UK. We've got Keith from Pennsylvania. We've got Kevin from Chicago, Todd from Belfort. We've got Perry from Aurora, Illinois. And we've got Ronald from Birmingham, New York. It's fantastic.
I love seeing how some of you have shared what you photograph a lot too. I'm seeing high school sports and figure skating. And so we do have some polls we'll put out in a little bit. I'm really excited to hear what everyone photographs.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've got, I don't know if Amanda, you want to drop those polls in now so that we can...
That's a great idea. I'll get that started while we're working on Jeff's sound. Thank you.
Yeah. We've got Don, who's a Maryland.
Can you hear me now?
Ah, that's better. Yes. Welcome back.
Okay. All right. All right. Sorry about that.
No problem. Thank you. Okay. Brilliant. So on to question number 2. So you've had an incredible access to the Olympics. What were some standout moments? Was there one image that stands out as your favorite? And we'd love to hear any stories you have behind anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, well, in Milan specifically, there were a lot of moments, right? I mean, I was shooting for USA Hockey. Is the audio better, by the way? Is that doing okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Perfect.
So Milan, there were a lot of standout moments. I'm obviously shooting for USA Hockey and winning two golds, both of them in overtime, the men and the women. Those were, high stress moments, but also at the same time, a lot of fun. Photographically, and as photographers, I'm sure everybody else on this call who's into photography knows that we tend to think in photos. So I have certain standout moments for me across all the Olympic Games. There's ones I know, like in Paris, I had that one shot of the skateboarder in the Olympic rings. That was one of my favorites that also won me Photographer of the Year last year. And then, in Milan, I think it was more of in Milan, there wasn't one photo like that's the one to me. It was more of just capturing what was going on in front of me with the team. There was a lot more politics in Milan that I had to deal with that I did not have to deal with at past Olympics. And I don't know if that was just that things were more political within the IOC, or the fact that my blog readership has gone from 10 people in Beijing to 500,000 readers this time. So I don't know if that put a target on my back, but I had to deal with a lot more, I don't know, like hassle with people just trying to move around and get into what I needed to do. But photographically, there's always great moments in everything I'm doing. So when I talk about the politics, there was politics of me getting into the locker room. So by the Olympic credentials don't get us into the locker room by default. But because I was the team photographer, they wanted me in the locker room. So then I had this team saying, we want you here. And the IOC saying, no way, we're letting you in there. And I'm in between this. And I ended up being in the locker room for both the women and the men when they were celebrating. But there was just a lot of stuff going on in between that was high stress and not fun. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it can be a stressful time. I was looking at some of your photos before we hopped into this, and I saw the one of you with Snoop Dogg.
Yeah. So that was funny because I mean, inherently, I'm not a huge Snoop Dogg fan, but my girlfriend is a huge Snoop Dogg fan. So she told me basically, if you don't get a picture with Snoop, don't come home. That's what she told me. And so we were at one point, they gave me a couple day notice. Like in 2 days, I think we're going to be doing a surprise photo with the women's hockey team and Snoop. And so, and I had to rearrange my schedule again, more political stuff to go through to get into position to do that. And also I had to go into a place where I was not supposed to be for that. But anyway, we ended up getting that shot with him, and he was really late. So it was kind of funny because I'm photographing the team, and the ruse was supposed to be like, Jeff's going to do a team photo of you guys after practice. And all the ladies were like, great. Well, he was so late that I'm shooting. I'm like, all right, now let's do just you guys doing thumbs up. I'm shooting. Now let's do it. I'm like, I'm running out of things to stall. And I'm looking at NBC, who's behind me, who is coordinating this, like, where's Snoop? And then they're like, hey, let's do a video with you guys all, saying good luck to the men's team. I mean, we were just like stalling. And then finally Snoop got there. But of course, the surprise is funny because a lot of the women said to me afterwards, we know you're a better photographer than that. It doesn't take you 10 minutes to get a photo, which was funny. But he came out, we got the shot. And then I'm photographing him with all the ladies and stuff. And then I'm like, I need a selfie with you and I, or actually I had one of the hockey players take it for me. But I'm like, I need a picture with you, Snoop, or I can't go home. So that was pretty funny. Yeah.
Fair enough. He's become quite a part of the Olympics, hasn't he, over the last couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, for USA, it's pretty amazing how he's kind of almost reinvented himself into this Olympic spokesperson, and he gets paid way better than I do going there.
I've heard that, yes. I've also noticed, looking at your photos from previous Olympics as well, there always seems to be, you managed to get a really iconic shot of, you had the Eiffel Tower, there's one from Paris. Is that something that is always part of your sort of planning ahead of the Olympics?
Yeah, I mean, I try to, well, for one, I'm trying to show where I am, because here's the thing about the Olympics. You could drop it in any city, because I'm just going venue to venue to venue. So if it's an indoor venue, like we were in Milan, you wouldn't even know. Like, I didn't even see the Duomo, which is the centerpiece of Milan. For the first week, I happened to get off the wrong train station. I thought, oh, wow, the Duomo. And so I wasn't eating good Italian food for the most part because I was eating in the venues. And so I do like to get out personally just to see where I am. But also I think it's important photographically to show it. And the other thing is, even though sports is amazing to photograph, I love the challenge of getting a good photo around town, doing night shots or whatever. So I did have one evening, late afternoon and evening, that was a free day for me. And I went around and I had that new, actually, it wasn't a prototype. I think it was actually a finished lens, the new 7 to 14 millimeter fisheye from Canon. And I had so much fun using that lens, going around shooting like the Duomo and the Galleria and stuff. It just yielded really epic shots. So that became kind of like a thing for me. Like, okay, what else could I do? Like getting the Olympic flame under the arch, as opposed to just the flame, getting the wide shot. So I literally got there an hour and a half before they, did the lighting the flame, or not lighting, sorry, but every night they kind of did a little thing with the flame opened up. And I got there really early, and I was like right in front, which was a horrible shot for most people because your phone wouldn't go that wide, but it was perfect for me with a fisheye. So things like that, just kind of, I'm an ADD kind of person. It kind of fills my cup to get shots that are beyond just sports.
Yeah, fantastic. I think we've got one of those examples coming up in the slide deck later on, so we can talk about that.
Cool.
Thank you, Jeff. So,
and actually, the slide you have right now, which is from opening ceremonies, it's funny because opening ceremonies can be hit and miss. Obviously, in Paris, it was a definite miss. There was like not one good shot from opening in Paris, but Milan, in the first 5 minutes of the games, I thought I've already got more cool shots in the first 5 or 10 minutes of the opening than I got in the entirety of Paris opening or closing. So that was kind of nice. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, that must be nice. And it must be difficult to know if you don't know what the planning is for the opening ceremony. Like you say, Paris was so difficult. It was
Yeah, and they don't tell us, like, they don't give us a run of show. Sometimes they do, but a lot of times they don't. So this one we kind of flew blind. I just had I had my own fisheye lens. I had my own 100 to 300 for shots like the one that's on screen right now. And the only thing I had is I had a cheat sheet that told me when the pyrotechnics would be. I think there were 4 different moments with pyro. And so in that case, I get ready with the wide lens to try to get a shot. This is taken with the wide lens. And I'm just waiting for, fireworks or whatever that they're going to blow off and hoping that I get that shot.
Right. Well, that's something, I suppose. A little bit of a heads up that there's some pyrotechnics coming down the line.
Yeah, but the other thing that's interesting is they're never on time. So you might have a run of show saying there's going to be pyro at 8:26. At the beginning, it tends to be on schedule. By the end, it's completely off every time.
Right. Well, you've already given us a little bit of information about the lenses and things that you've been using. So for photographers wanting to shoot action or fast-moving events, what gear and camera settings do you consider absolutely essential for these? Obviously, this was indoors, a lot of it, wasn't it? So you've got a lighting issue there to think about. How would you approach that? What's your essential gear and settings that you'd use in these situations?
It's interesting because the lighting at the Olympics is much easier to shoot than shooting even a high school sport. I see a lot of the people, I'm looking at the chat, and people are shooting figure skating, and I've shot ice hockey where I play, and the lighting is not great. And so I'm pushing my ISO really high, like 3,200 or 4,000 or 6,400. At the Olympics, it's lit really, really well. So at the Olympics, my ISO is down at 1,000 or 1,250 and still getting shutter speeds that were fast. So I'm trying to get 1,250th of a second. I'm generally not shooting at 280, even though I can. I was using the 70 to 200 most of the time because I'm really close to the action. And so normally you'd be pushing your ISO higher and you'd be shooting at 2.8, but I'm actually shooting at 3.5 or f4 sometimes, so I can give it both the athlete that I'm focusing on and maybe even the defender in focus. And so the Olympics is almost cheating in a way because it's so much easier to shoot than shooting high school sports or local sports.
That's interesting. That's not something I'd thought of, actually. Actually, I'm also an equine photographer. I find the same thing, that the higher level of the event, the better the situation is than the lower one. So that's good to know.
The other thing is we have great lighting. We have the best athletes in the world. We have really good-looking backgrounds. We have interested spectators. Like when you're shooting a lot of high school sports, you've got parents, you've got empty stands with maybe a spattering of people. Some are paying attention, some are not. And inevitably, if you're shooting high school sports or whatever it might be, there's always that one open door on the other side that's letting a bunch of light spill in, and then your white balance is terrible. We don't have to deal with any of that at the Olympics. And so, we've got great athletes, great backgrounds, great lighting. It almost makes life easier in some respects, other than the fact that you're very restricted on where you can shoot from.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And in terms of the lenses you use, you've mentioned the 70-200, and I think you said you use the fisheye as well. Are there any other lenses that you recommend for either the Olympic setting or any sort of other sports setting?
Yeah, it's interesting because people will email me, and by the way, I answer every email. So if anybody has any questions beyond this, I'll answer it. But it really depends on what you're shooting and where you're shooting from. And so this is one of the rare Olympics where I was in Milan. I didn't go to Cortina because it was too far away. It was like 6-7 hour drive on buses each way. There was no way to come back in time to shoot the next hockey game, which I was contractually obligated to do. And so I lived on my 70 to 200 for almost everything. That's unusual. Typical Olympics, I'll be 70, 200 when I'm doing figure skating or hockey, and then I'm out shooting, snowboarding or whatever else, and I'm using a really long lens. And so the only time I used the 100 to 300 was at opening ceremonies. And other than that, I brought that lens all the way over to Milan and used it one time. And so it's different. A lot of times I'll use a 24-70 or 15 to 35 or the fisheye, depending on, again, what I'm shooting and where I'm shooting. So for ice hockey, I use the fisheye a lot because when that puck would come around the boards and end up in front of me, every time people would see this on TV, you'd see me reach, put the 70-200 on my lap, grab the fisheye, and just hold it up and spray and pray, just kind of hoping to get a good shot. And so it really depends on what venue you're in, where you can stand, how close you are to the action. And then I will shoot at a very fast shutter speed, maybe 1,000 to 1,500th of a second or 2,000th of a second, depending on the sport. But then I'll also, a lot of the shots I'm doing are motion pans where I'm slowing that shutter speed down to 30th of a second and trying to be creative. So there is no one setting fits all. It really depends on what I'm shooting and what I'm trying to create.
That's interesting. I think we've got some of those images coming up of yours where you slowed the shutter speed down and panned. And how many cameras do you have set up? Would you have with you any one time?
Generally, I've got 3. I was shooting 2 Canon R1s, and then I also had a Canon R6 Mark III with me. And so, again, depending on what I was shooting, if I'm shooting the action, I'd use the R1. I did use the R6 Mark III a little bit for action as well, but a lot of times I would use the R6 Mark III for interview, portraits, stuff like the Snoop Dogg, stuff like that. So I didn't need to be blasting out super fast, burst rates. And so again, just like lenses, the camera I would choose would be dependent on what I'm shooting that day. And so each morning I would look at, okay, where am I going today? Which venue? What am I going to be shooting? So I would mix and match the lenses and cameras depending on where I was going, what I was doing.
I see. And what does the setup look like for you? Would you have one on a tripod? Do you have no? They're just
no tripods are allowed. So you're not allowed to use tripods at any Olympic venues. There's too many photographers and not enough space for them. And I generally didn't even. Usually, I live on my monopod because I'm using long lenses, and I didn't at this Olympics in Milan. I was really, because I was shooting most of it at 7200. I didn't need it, so I used the monopod. I used the Benro monopod at the opening ceremonies, and I don't think I used it again at all. Like literally everything was handheld because I was close to the action on everything.
Right. And you mentioned that you have a very long lens that you use for longer range shots for when you're outdoors and stuff. What is that lens?
So I've used a combination of different ones. I like zooms. I actually don't like long primes. I know there's some people that swear by the 400 2.8 or 600 f4. I like reframing my shots. So I generally was using, generally the 100 to 300 with an adapter. Like in Paris Olympics, that was my go-to lens for so much, was the 1 to 3. And sometimes I'd put a 1.4 teleadapter, the extender on there, and use that. At past Olympics, I've used the 200 to 400 with a built-in teleextender. And then sometimes I'll even take like a 100 to 500 lens, which is a variable aperture lens. But if I'm doing motion panning, I'm killing the shutter speed and shooting at a lower aperture anyway. So again, it falls into that same category. There is no one size fits all. So I did bring the 100 to 500 with me in Milan. I don't think I ever shot with it once at this games. But you've got to be prepared for anything. And honestly, Canon has such a large collection of loaners that if you read the blog, you saw that back room of all the loaner product. If I'd been smart, I would have just borrowed everything from them for the whole games and brought very little with me. Hindsight, you never know.
I can only imagine what it must be like traveling with all that gear as well, going through airports and security and.
Yeah, the worst, and I've not really talked about this publicly before, but when I left Milan, United Airlines completely screwed up my flight, and they had canceled my ticket from Milan to Frankfurt for my connection. And I went to check in, and of course, I'd been there for 3 weeks working 18-hour days. I was exhausted. I was ready to go home. And I got there, and they're like, you don't have a ticket. And I said, well, when's the next flight to Frankfurt? And they said 3 days because closing ceremonies have just happened, and everybody's trying to get out. And I was really lucky that my girlfriend, who happened to be awake at 1 a.m, found me a flight, paid like $600 for this 1 hour flight just to get me to Frankfurt. And it was on like Condor Airline. I have no status on Condor Airline. I have like 2 million miles on United. So they said, okay, yeah, you have a ticket, but you have to check your bags. Well, my camera bag had like $30,000 in gear, and I had to check it. And I didn't have a choice because the woman said to me, if you don't check it, you're not going. And so I had to check the thing. And I will tell you that I was freaking out a little bit. Like, I've never checked that bag. I did have my air tags, and I also have this little credit card type air tag that was in there. So I knew when I got on the plane, okay, good, it's below me. So that was at least somewhat helpful. I just didn't know what was still going to be in the bag. Everything made it. I got really lucky. So, yeah.
Oh, thank goodness for that. That must have been stressful, I can imagine.
You don't even know. I ran around that airport for 2 hours trying to find a rep from United and couldn't, because it was a co-share with the Lufthansa. Yeah, that was a low point for me at the Olympics. I was really stressed out because I thought I might be in Milan for an extra 3 or 4 days, which I was not prepared to do.
No, gosh. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you managed to get back and have all your lenses all together still. I was put these two photos on the screens. These are the two that I was talking about where you've done the panning and the slower shutter speed. Would you just, do you remember what the shutter speed was and the settings were for these two images?
Yeah, it depends on how fast they're going. So for the figure skaters, they're not moving as fast as the speed skaters. The figure skaters, I was at like 30th of a second, I believe. And for the short track skaters, I was a little bit faster. I think I was at 50th in that range. And the reason I'm doing that is I'm trying to create, again, something more creative and more artistic. And the figure skaters, when he lifted her and she leaned back like that, and I was firing at that show slow shutter speed, I'm like, oh God, please get this right. Please get this right. And so I panned I'm moving my lens at the exact same rate as them. And the good thing is it makes them sharp. But again, all the people in the background, which is in this case, the judges and even the logo, has that blur to it. So it kind of takes your eye more to the skaters. You don't have that distraction in the background quite as much than if I had shot this at, 1,000th of a second.
Mm. That's true. I've been going through your images and as you say, there's never a bad background, is there? When you do this creative, the panning, the colors, it really has an incredible effect, doesn't it? Fantastic work.
It does. And honestly, we're really spoiled by having these great backgrounds and amazing athletes, obviously, in front of us. But, it's interesting. I tend to position myself in a place where I think that I'm going to have good logos or colors. Like you see the speed skating shot there, I position myself so I'd have that kind of cool background. And if they were in a position that didn't have a good background, I didn't even shoot it. I would wait for them to move into the right. Same thing with the figure skaters. If they're in a far corner and it's just terrible background, even if they're doing something cool, I probably wouldn't shoot it because I knew that the background wasn't good. So I'm very aware of foregrounds and backgrounds and what the athletes are doing and then at the same time, I'm also hyper aware of my camera settings and holding it steady and doing all those things. There's a lot going on per image for sure.
Sounds like it. And having 3 cameras as well and knowing all the settings that they're all set up for at any one time, it's mental gymnastics, I'm sure.
It is. And honestly, like you're running on very little sleep. I don't think I ever got to sleep before 2 a.m, I believe there. And so, yeah, you're running on fumes. And there are times when you just do something stupid and you're like, oh God, what was I thinking? But you didn't sleep much. So you get a hall pass on that.
Gosh. Sounds like a lot.
It's a lot, but you can't complain because you're at the Olympics, you're doing what you love.
Absolutely. So. Yeah. It's a privilege to be there, isn't it? So
for sure.
Wonderful. So you're known for photographing intense sports and also intimate events and instructing photo tours as well. So how do you switch between these seemingly conflicting worlds with skills that transfer between them?
Yeah, I get this question a lot because most people who are into photography, they tend to specialize. Like I'm a wedding photographer, I'm a sports photographer, or I'm a wildlife photographer, or a landscape photographer. And honestly, to me, I feel like if you have passion for photography and you love photography, I don't see why I should be limited to one thing. And the other thing is, and I did a presentation a couple of years ago for B&H, and it was how wildlife photography and sports photography are so similar, and how shooting in the plains of Tanzania and photographing lions and elephants and things, how that translates to shooting sports better for the Olympics or vice versa. And so same thing is true. Like if I'm shooting wildebeest in Tanzania, day 1, people are like, ooh, wildebeest, and they sit there and they photograph. By day 3, you've seen 200,000 of them. You're like, yeah, keep moving. No, let's try motion panning wildebeest, or let's try doing something different. And so I use that same kind of Olympic I don't know, passion and creative drive for everything I'm shooting. So like when I lead photo tours to Machu Picchu, well, how do you shoot Machu Picchu in Peru uniquely when everybody else is doing the same shot from the same spot? So again, I'll tell people, hey, here's a really cool plant. Let's make that our subject. And then we'll shoot at f5.6. So Machu Picchu is still visible in the background, but our subject is the plant. So like everything I do, I try to take that same kind of unique perspective. And when I shoot events, like I just did a bar mitzvah a couple days ago, I have another one on Saturday, and I do the same thing. Like, okay, I got to get the portrait that looks really good, but hey, here's a unique spot. Let's shoot over here and let's try this. And then for the party, I'll set up multiple strobes and try something different to make it a much more dynamic look. So I think there's a couple of things I'm not good at. I don't shoot newborns. I'm not really good at food photography. So it's not that I could shoot anything and do it well, and I'm not claiming to. But I think the passion for photography allows me to teach better. And I've got photo tours coming up to, I don't know where are my next ones? Costa Rica. Well, I'll be in Morocco next week. And so I tailor, again, just like I did with the Olympics, each day, okay, we're going to want to shoot wide today, or we're going to be shooting wildlife. So we're going to use our long lenses tomorrow. Costa Rica, we have a couple of days that are just macro or close-up photography. So I'll tell people, okay, here's the camera equipment you want to bring, and maybe bring a tripod or monopod for this one. And so it's the combination of my history of shooting and knowing what's coming up that allows me to kind of improvise and help my guests get really cool stuff. And a lot of my photo tour guests have never tried motion panning, or have never thought about, hey, maybe I'll slow the shutter speed down here and do something different. So I try to inspire them with what's going on in this crazy head of mine. And I will say this, when we do the photo tours, actually, everything I do, I try to have fun. Even if I'm shooting like a bar mitzvah, and I've done a lot of them, or a wedding, I like to have fun too, because if I'm having fun and dancing with grandma on the dance floor, or having fun with the bride, then that's what you get back in the camera. And the same thing is true on photo tour. I tell everybody on my photo tours, the first thing I want you to do is have fun. Yes, I want you to get great photos, but let's have a great time doing it. And so my number one drive is to enjoy life and have fun, and then fill our cup with good photos.
That's very interesting. And I'm sure that helps to keep you pushing yourself to be creative and coming up with new ideas and things like that.
It does. The interesting thing is, and this is, I almost wrote a blog and I did not, about how at the Olympics, we're not allowed to be human. So there was a NBC meme of me, I'm shooting the women's gold medal game, and there was a trip on one of our players, and they didn't call it. And I'm like, put my hand up like, call it. And then I went back to shooting, and NBC goes, ref missed the call, photographer got the call, which was pretty funny. But I got reprimanded by people there, like, hey, you're supposed to be impartial. And I thought, but I play the game, I play hockey all the time. It was just a natural reaction. But when I was photographing, when the woman won gold, they were all coming over to me to get photos because I was the team photographer. And I got reprimanded for talking to the women because we're not supposed to interact with them. And I'm like, I'm friends with them. I've worked with these guys for weeks. I know them on a first name basis. So it's interesting that at times you're not supposed to be human. And same thing, I find this with other photographers when they shoot events, when they shoot a wedding or a personal event, and they go, no, our job is to stay in the background and not be seen. That's not who I am. I like to have fun with them. I turn the camera around when I get a great shot of someone. I go at a party, look at this. And they go, oh my God, that's so good. I like to be out there. And I tell people all the time that I'm successful as a photographer, partially because I take good images, but people like to work with me. And I think that's important. When I have someone working at my house, I want to deal with someone who I enjoy, who I like. If they're jerks, I don't want to hire them, right? And so I am more human and unapologetically so when I'm shooting. And so that can be both good and bad.
Yeah, I can understand that. And I think that makes, for a photographer who's super passionate, is someone who's heart is really in it, when you're really connected to, and you love what you're shooting, that really makes a difference to how you're in your work.
It does, and it's really frustrating for me that I can't show emotion. When the woman won, I'm shooting, them getting their golds and skating around with the flag, and I'm like, yes, I'm so excited for you. And actually, Hillary Knight came over, and I said to her, wait, come here for a second, I have to talk to you for a second. And I said, I am so proud of you for what you've accomplished, because she's done 5 Olympics. That's unbelievable. But she just got engaged the day before. Then the next day they announced that she was the flag bearer for closing ceremonies. And I just wanted to say how proud I was of her. But again, I got reprimanded for talking to them. That to me is very hard to juggle. But I'd rather lose my credentials and never shoot again and be human. So
that's it. Be authentic, and I'm sure the team appreciate it, and there are many people that do appreciate it, even if some people don't.
Oh, the team loves it, because the team loves the passion I have.
Would you say that there is any? Right, I'm sure. Yeah. Just one last question on this topic. Are there any skills that you've learned from shooting one genre to another? And are there any that are surprising? Anything that you've learned from shooting one style that you've taken on to another?
Every time. I mean, honestly, every time I shoot, I learn. And I always tell people, if I'm not learning anything, I don't want to do it. Because I can't imagine saying, oh, I've shot everything I want to shoot, I'm done. And I do. I even on photo tours, I'll have a guest come along and say, oh, I'm going to try this. I'm like, I've never tried that before. And so I'm constantly learning from other people, even at the Olympics. I mean, at the Summer Olympics, we're surrounded by 2,200 amazing photographers. And so I learned from them, or I'll be inspired by a photo they took and thought, okay, I'm going to try that too. So it's constant. And as I mentioned, there's things that I'll try in sports that I'll then take. The shot that's on the screen right now, I use the fisheye for sports, but I thought, hey, that fisheye for this gallery is going to be really cool. And then, just like I talked about before, how I'm always aware of my foreground and background, I saw these 2 guys there, and everybody was taking selfies with them, facing the other way. And I thought, oh, this would be a perfect subject matter for the Galleria. So I said, can you guys turn around for a second and face the other way? And they're like, sure. And of course I was wearing my credentials, so they knew I was official. And I turned them around and I shot this shot. And this was inspired by what I was doing with sports with that fisheye lens. And so, yes, I take things and cross between sports, portraits, wildlife, landscape. My brain is constantly thinking, what can I do here? And when I go to Morocco in a week, which I've never been to, that's kind of a test trip for future trips. And I've never been there. So each place I go, I'll be like, oh, wait, I'm going to try this lens, or wait, let me switch to this mode or whatever. And so, yes, that knowledge base that I've built between these 2 years comes with me everywhere. And I try to push myself to shoot differently in all regards.
That's wonderful. This photo really stood out for me. There was many of these fisheye ones that really looked great. But I've also been to this building myself, and I've never seen it photographed in this way before. So I think it's a spectacular image.
It is an amazing place to be. I went back numerous times, different light, and this was one that I didn't have a flash with me at the time, or maybe I don't think I did. So I did light in their faces a little bit in Photoshop. So I did a little bit of tweaking to it, but I really love just that scene. Really cool. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. So after you've captured any required shots, do you push your, I know you do, we've talking a little bit about this, but how do you stay inspired year after year? Is it your photo trips, do you think, that keeps you inspired? Is there anything else that you do that maybe you don't talk about in your blog and sort of publicly? Is there any other practices that you do personally to keep yourself inspired and keep pushing you forward and coming up with new creative ideas and approaches?
I will tell you that from the Olympics, it's getting harder. When I did my first Olympics, every shot I got was like, ooh, that's cool. My second one, which was the first summer games I've ever done, I thought, ooh, that was cool. Now that I've done 9, it's getting harder for me to create something I have not created before, like the motion panning, which I'm kind of known for. How do I push that even farther? How do I get even slower shutter speeds? How do I shoot differently or different angles? that's getting harder for me. So there's a drop in inspiration a little bit, but I also know I'm at the Olympics. I love it so much. It's still high. And I will tell you, like for photo tours, my inspiration is half photography, but also half seeing other people who get an amazing shot that they didn't think they could get before they left. And then they're on the trip and they're like, oh my God, look what I got. And I'm like, that is awesome. So then my inspiration is more their excitement and what they're capturing more than what I'm getting. And it's not to say that I don't love getting a good photo too. So when we're on photo tour, they're the primary person. They need to get the shot. But if I can get a good shot too, I'm happy. But it is inspiring to not just photographically, but just to meet new people. I'm a people person, so it's really fun to meet new people. And you know, it's breakfast, lunch, and dinner with the same people and shooting all day, talking about photography. But because I love it so much, I'm good with that. Mm-hmm. So the inspiration's there, I think. You know, and I've said this from day one. The minute I lose inspiration for photography, I will quit.
Mm. That's a very good point. And so is photo tours something that you would say is where your most creative or your most creative outlet? Is that where you can really explore your creativity more than perhaps other genres now? And what was your pathway into that? Is that what came first, and how did you end up where you are now doing the photo tours?
The tours came later. I mean, I've been doing tours now for 10 years. So I was doing photography without tours for a while. I love travel. I love seeing the world. I love getting outside of the US and seeing different cultures, trying different food, seeing iconic places. I mean, I always tell people, if you go to Africa, if you've never been to Africa, it's life-changing. Like, you can leave Africa, Africa never leaves you. And so one of my first photo tour was in Tanzania on safari. And it was life-changing. It was like, this is amazing to be able to see all those things, but also to share that and to inspire other people to get better shots was really fun. That's kind of took over for me. And so to have the balance of Olympics, personal events in the Bay Area, so I can stay home, which I also do enjoy. And then also, you know, shooting photo tours. I like the balance of it. Like right now I'm in a hotel. That's why I've got the virtual background on, because I'm not home. I think I've only been in my bed maybe 7 nights in the last 2 months. So it's also nice to be home too.
I think that this really represents what they say about if you do what you love, you never work another day in your life. It sounds like you've got a
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. This shot actually was funny. So this game, this was when the US played, I think it was Finland, if I remember correctly, but they have similar colored uniforms. And at the beginning of the game, I kept keying in on the wrong team. It was dry. And I said to the photographers next to me, is this driving you crazy? And they said, yeah, it's like they were literally all wearing the same color pants. So it was really confusing when shooting. And the funny thing was, my son, who's back home, who's watching the game, goes, yeah, this is confusing to us on TV as well, which I thought was funny. But this was probably my favorite fisheye shot during hockey. You could see the boards, the blue of the boards. I'm literally right up against the glass there. But it was almost like a two-headed player because they're wearing the same colors. And it was fun to get them right with both their faces visible, which is the shot I've been hoping for, you know, the entire games, trying to get something cool like this.
Oh, fantastic. Actually, I'm very glad you pointed out about that there were different teams. It didn't automatically, I didn't see that straight away, actually. It must have been a nightmare to be shooting them.
It was very confusing, even though I shoot for Team USA. You think I'm used to the USA on the jerseys, but we're looking through a hole this big and we're concentrating on getting, you know, being in focus and getting the right peak of action and everything else. So it's almost like we need those differential in uniforms for what they're wearing so that we can easily know who we're keying in on. It was confusing. It was that extra 10th of a second messing me up on every shot. It's kind of funny.
I can imagine. Right. So we're going to move on and start to talk about what advice would you give to a person starting in a new photography business? Say somebody who's mastered photography, they know what they're doing. Perhaps they've been playing around with some different genres and they understand the types of things they like. But what advice would you give from that point on?
You know, I give the same advice to anybody who reaches out to me and says, I want to become a photographer. I want to start my own business. And I tell people, learn business and marketing. Learn how to take good photo for sure, but learn business and marketing because, you know, you can be the best photographer in the world and fail. My dad, who unfortunately passed away like 30 years ago, but my dad was a doctor. And I think a lot of doctors can be great doctors. He was a great doctor. He wasn't a great business person. And I know my mom used to always complain about that. But when you run your own business, you know, you have to run the business. So people think, okay, Jeff takes photos and he's successful because he takes a good photo. No, it's because one day a week I might be shooting. The other 6 days, I'm editing images. I'm dealing with new clients. I'm dealing with past clients who have questions. I'm writing a blog post. I'm doing social media. I'm going to the post office to mail stuff. You know, there's, you know, literally 20, 30 things that you have to do to be successful. Answering every email. Like I said, I answer email from people that I don't even know that have a photography question, or like, hey, which camera should I get? Or what do you recommend for this? And so it is all encompassing, but I think it's really important to share that passion. I'm very lucky to be successful and to do what I love. And I feel like I kind of owe it to everybody else to share that. I had people that were mentors to me that did that for me, and I feel like I need to pay that back. But it is, it's important to realize that the business side is separate from the creative side. And you really have to do both well to be really successful. But the business part is absolutely critical. And so if you major in photography and you learn how to take great photos, but you don't understand how to run a business, you'll fail, right? Because you're not going to know how to invoice people correctly and pay your bills, or, you know, how to deal with clients. And that's top-notch stuff you have to know.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. I think a lot of probably clients don't really understand that as photographers, we have to wear all the hats. So it's
absolutely. Yeah. And I think again, for me, that personality, and I'm a total ham. So when I shoot, I have fun and I'm laughing with them and playing with them and I want to have a good time. That's what I think. A lot of what I get hired for is that people enjoy me. And so you have to think about that when you're shooting. You can't sit in a corner and look bored, because then they're going to look at you and think, oh, this guy doesn't care. Or it's just a show when he's shooting and then he doesn't care. So you have to be on all the time. When you get a phone call from a client, you have to be on, or a potential client, you have to be on. So you have to like think about, and I remember years ago, UPS, the delivery service, used to tell their drivers, every time you drop a package off at a house, that person that you're dropping off the package to has $1 million on their forehead, because that's what that client is worth. Because if you throw the box and leave and make them upset, they're going to tell 20 other people how much they hate UPS. But if you do a good job, they're going to want to use our services. And I think about that in a different level with my clients. I want every client to say, God, I love working with him. And I had a client recently who said, you know, I didn't really love the images of myself. And I thought, no, you looked great. Maybe she's self-critical, as we all are, of photos. But I hate that. I want 100% of people to be happy with their photos. So yeah, I take that really personally.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Thank you. This is a shot. I think this is a shot you were talking about when you were waiting for Snoop Dogg.
No, this one actually was not. This was actually literally before opening ceremonies. We did so I had to move my flight because they moved this team photo up by a day. So I had to fly out a day early, which is what United blamed for my return problem. But anyway, we did the formal team photo where they're all in chairs, or all, you know, doing their kind of hockey face. And then the women are fun because, you know, the men are all NHL players and they're used to being on camera and everything else. They want to get that team photo over as fast as possible. The women, they're used to playing in front of a much smaller audience, and frankly, just more fun to be around because they're just having a great time. So we had done the formal team photos, and then they were pushing each other around on chairs, and I was doing a bunch of video and photos of that. And then I had people, like some of the ladies would be like up against the boards doing photos, or laying down on the rings and getting photos. So I was just doing a whole bunch of fun stuff. And right before they left, I kind of yelled over, everybody come over here for a second. Let's do a fun one. And so I think I was shooting like 4 or 5 of the ladies here. And I go, let's get everybody together and do a fun one. And so I like this one because this is me getting them together, just enjoying the moment before the Olympics started. And you could see the pleasure on their face. And it was fun for me to kind of corral them together to get it. And so to me, people will see this photo and think, oh, it's a team shot or whatever. I look at this and I think about the moment. Me saying to them, hey, you want to do this? And they're like, yeah. And so, making it happen and getting the smiles and a very different look from the formal shot. And you talk about what inspires me, that inspires me.
Yeah, absolutely. This was a real standout one as I was going through the photos today of the team shots. And it just goes to show that having that fun and just joking around and being in part of the team and being involved, this is where the best work can come from sometimes. So
yeah, there was a shot in the locker room after they won gold. It was a good hour, at least an hour after the game. And they're all wearing their goggles with the champagne and beer, God knows what it was. And I said to them, even in the locker room, get together and let's do it. And I can't share that. I had to take it off the blog. I had it on temporarily, but it's a cool shot. It's a moment they didn't want shared, but it's a cool shot. They're all in their goggles and all loving life, wearing their gold medals. And that's another one of those moments that, I remember.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, so now we want to talk a little bit about what Zenfolio does to support your workflow. Whether that's when you're delivering Olympic images, event galleries. I just want to also just jump in here and say, I can imagine that each of the different disciplines that you do shoot have a really different workflow afterwards. I'm sure the sports stuff has to be delivered really, really fast. Perhaps the photo tours, not so much. How do they differ? And then how does each of those fit into your workflow, or how does Zenfolio support each of the workflows of the different genres?
Yeah, so I've been using Zenfolio for 15 years, maybe more. And it's key because a couple things. When I'm at the Olympics, every time I'm shooting an event, my deadline is 15 minutes. So I'm getting images of the team like really fast. But as soon as the game is over and the pressure I've already delivered, then what I'll do is I'll look through those that I delivered to them that are my favorites, and I'll take the top 5 or 10 and move that to a page. So on my website at jeffcable.com, there's portfolios. And in portfolios, one of them is Olympics. And there's a breakout of each of the 9 Olympics that I photographed. And so if you click on the link for Milan, that was real time. I was adding images because it's so easy. It takes seconds to drop into Zenfolio. I keep my webpage up to date. This is another piece of advice. Going back to the business, so many of my competitors in the San Francisco Bay Area that I shoot, that I'm competing against, they don't update their website. Their stuff is like from 10 years ago and it looks years old. Like I keep my website up to date because it's so easy and so fast to do. So that's one thing. As far as the workflow, I actually use the same workflow that I do for the Olympics pretty much for what I do for personal events. So when I shoot for Team USA, they want images. I was delivering images from the glass, on the ice for hockey. The break between period 1 and period 2 and period 2, period 3 was 20 minutes. I was delivering within the 10-minute window down to about 6 minutes. I was getting them images. I had time to go walk around and stretch because, you get sore sitting there for 3 hours. So that same workflow I take to personal events. So when I shot that bar mitzvah on Saturday, I went through all the images, and Sunday before noon, I had posted the gallery on Zenfolio for my client. And I go, here's your images. They're raw. And I say, anything that's a little dark, a little too bright, I'll correct. But I'll also retouch 25 of my favorites and put those in a folder called, Photographer Retouched, so they can see how I take a good image and really finish it. But those are delivered next day by noon. And so I take that same kind of workflow and put it through everything I do. And when I do photo tours, people freak out because we'll get back, let's say in Costa Rica, we shot from 7 a.m. till 4 p.m. And I go, dinner's at 6. I go back to my room. I'll go through everything we shot that day, find the best 5, retouch, and airdrop them to my phone. When we go to dinner, I go, here's my favorite 6 images. And they're like, I haven't even started to go through mine yet. And so I try to use that same workflow for a lot of reasons. One is on photo tour, we're shooting sometimes thousands of images per day. I don't want to go home and have to go through 20,000 images. And I'm too excited. I want to see what we got. So I encourage people, go through your images each night, because not only is it fun to see what you got, but it also helps teach you tomorrow, I need to shoot a little bit wider. Or, oops, I keep cutting off the feet of the animal. I need to shoot a little lower. And so it's a good way to kind of correct yourself and think what you want to do differently that next day. So yeah, I take that same workflow all the way through. And I love that, those galleries that get posted the next day for my clients, they're blown away, right? Because they're still having family in town for the wedding or bar mitzvah, whatever it was, and they can run the slideshow mode in Zenfolio and just have it running on a computer or on their TV while they're having brunch. People just freak out with that immediacy. And of course, that translates to sales or referrals for other clients. So I haven't advertised in 14 years and I'm booked into 2028 already.
Wow, that's amazing. So would you say that slideshow feature is a really key part of what drives your business and helps bring sales and bookings, as you were just saying?
I think it's more just the gallery that they can log in and see immediately. Not only them, but I tell them, hey, everybody that was at your event was asking, they want to see the images. I got a great picture of this particular couple and they want to use, they want to buy that. So when I share that gallery, I tell them, hey, everybody else wanted to see the images. Here's the gallery, the link to the custom, jeffcable.com/ Joel's bar mitzvah, whatever it be. And then I give them a password and I say, hey, send this out to everybody that went to the party because they're going to want to see them. Well, that's great, because then they're going to order prints and digitals or whatever. And that's just, again, business and revenue.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And are there any other Zenfolio features that you would say are really helpful with any part of what you do?
Oh, God, there's too many. Honestly, it's a combination of my website, which I look separately, which is I'm constantly trying to update that. I've got a bunch of custom pages and stuff I've done for my photo tours and things. And I try to keep that web page really up to date. Literally, I think the day I got to Milan and started shooting, okay, now I've done my 9th Olympics, because you always worry, especially playing hockey, don't get hurt to the point where I can't go to that 9th Olympics. So once I was there, okay, I'm now shooting my 9th Olympics. I go on Zenfolio, I change my about page for my bio to a 9-time Olympic photographer, not 8, right? And so I think about my website separately from the galleries to my clients, but both are absolutely critical to my success. I always tell people, in the old days, if you drove by a building and you saw a logo, Apple on the building, wow, they must be a really successful computer company because they have that huge building. Well, if you're a photographer, what is your building? Your building is your website.
Absolutely.
Right. And so my advertising and who I am is my website. And my homepage is very thought through. Olympic image, bar mitzvah, because I do a lot of them, Olympic image, wedding, Olympic image, portrait. So I think about what I want them to see. So, yes, are they interested in having me shoot sports for them? Probably not, maybe, but maybe not. But it's still important for them to think, wait, this guy's an Olympic photographer, he must be good, right? And so, and then he does bar mitzvahs and weddings and stuff. So it's kind of purposeful in the way that I've even built the homepage.
Right. Fascinating. Well, I think we could sit here for a very long time listening to you, Jeff. You're fascinating. It's really a treat to listen to all your experiences, and thank you for sharing so much. It's been wonderful. But I'm conscious we're running out of time, and it'd be great to hop over to some questions and see if we can get some of these questions answered. So let's have a look over here. We've got.
That's also know where I play hockey. That's funny. So I do. I have played at Fremont, but I play at Sharks Ice in San Jose. That's where I play. And then someone else asked if I archive my older galleries or does Zenfolio. And the answer to that one is yes. So I have what I do is I have my current client galleries in one folder, in one massive folder. And then once they order images or whatever, I will move them to a completed clients folder, in which case those can be archived. And I've asked Zenfolio not to archive current ones, which they don't typically, but older stuff they can archive. Although I do keep all my old galleries, much to I'm sure Zenfolio's dismay, because it's a lot of stuff. But I do actually want to keep them all there. Many times I'll have clients ask me, can you reinstate a gallery because they either didn't pick in time or a grandparent passed away and they love the one photo of them, they want to get that. So there's a lot of times where I have to go back and reinstate them.
Right. Thank you for that. I don't know if you can see the same as what I'm seeing, Jeff, but we've got a column here published in the questions section. And in there, there's a lot of questions, actually. If you can maybe hop over to those.
I'm looking at that now, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So Stefan has asked, how do you compete with firms like Bibbed Ryan from Sweden? How was Wi-Fi on the cameras and editor on standby? And
so at the Olympics, there are lots of different agencies. There's Getty and Associated Press and European Press Association and other agencies. And they've got people that are internet connected right to their camera. They don't even edit. So in my example I gave you, hockey, they shoot, and then when the period over, the horn blows and they have 20 minutes, they're just hanging out. And I'm working my butt off. And so it's very different for them. I actually like finishing my own images and going through them and doing everything myself. Not that I have a choice, because I don't shoot for an agency. So how do I compete with them? I don't. I just kind of do the best I can as an individual. And like I said, I actually like finishing what I started. So I like doing my own images.
Mm.
The next one here. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we've got Richard. Apart from your own successes, Jeff, have there been any photos from other photographers you've liked or photos that you missed, i.e. the one that got away? That's a good question.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's always, as a photographer, I can't tell you how many times I look and think, God, that's good. A photo that someone else took. Yes, we've all missed shots. But sure, I'm inspired by other photographers every day. I mean, I look at stuff that I see in magazines or, and I'm like, wow, that's great. I couldn't have done that. And that inspires me to try to do better. So, but yes, I'm always inspired by other people, for sure.
Mm. Wonderful. And Scott has asked, when you're shooting hockey at the goal, are you shooting through the barrier glass?
Yes. So when I shoot for the NHL locally, the team, the San Jose Sharks, my home team, I shoot through a hole in the glass. The Olympics doesn't even have holes in the glass. So we have to shoot through plexiglass. And that's really tough when you've got these amazing cameras and lenses, and then you're shooting through kind of a blurry plexi. Your field of view is about maybe 25 degrees, and then you couldn't shoot. So you couldn't shoot really off angle because it would just be a distorted mess. That was tough. And as the games go on, they're still polishing the glass and trying to get it clean, but you get scuff marks that are really deep in the plexi. And so you really have to position yourself in the right clean piece. I would get to the rink a good hour and a half early every game to try to find the cleanest area of plexi in the area where we were shooting twice. So yeah, that was a challenge.
Yeah. Well, it's seriously impressive that you've managed to get such sharp, crisp photos, even just shooting through the plexiglass.
Tough. So, yeah, it's tough.
Yeah. So Sherry has asked, how are you storing photos during a shoot? Is it clouds, external drives? That's a very good question as well.
Yeah, actually a combination of all different ways. So I do carry external SSDs with me, and I back up on those. And then all my favorites are being uploaded to Zenfolio. So they're already there on my website. I also use Dropbox to put all my favorites. So they're just the favorites are cloud-based. So between those, and then I also have a server at my house, and I can actually upload directly to the server from wherever I am. Typically, though, my main backup is on SSDs, and then to share with people is done through Zenfolio and my blog.
Right. Have you ever had a failure of an SD card or anything like that?
Honestly, I don't use SD. I use CF Express now. But have I ever had a failure of a card? So I was in the memory card business for 12 years, and I know what can happen to memory cards. So I always shoot to 2 cards, always, redundantly, raw files to both. So God forbid if one card fails, I pop the other one out. Have I had that happen? Yes, which is why I always shoot to 2, because I used to think, okay, I'll shoot to 2 cards when it's important, and I'll shoot to 1 card when it's not important. And then it occurred to me, when am I ever shooting when it's not important? Never.
Yeah.
Right? It might be the Olympics, or it might just be my grandkids. I want pictures. There's never an unimportant photo. So always shooting to 2 cards.
That's an excellent point. There is never an unimportant photo. You're right about that.
It's not.
Yeah. So Popper has asked, and this may be a tricky one for you to answer, Jeff, and I'm sure there's a lot of luck involved, but so Popper is a sports photographer in Bucharest, and how do you recommend you approach this? Who should you contact so you have a place in the next Olympics? Any tips?
Yeah, it's a really hard question, and it's probably the number one question I get is, how do I get to the Olympics? It's really tough. There's so few credentials. Like in your country, there may only be 2 for people to go. So it's very, very difficult to get one of those. Even in the US, for as many as we have, which might be 60, it's still tough because I'm competing against all the newspapers and magazines and so forth. So it's building your portfolio to look as good as you can. It's showing that you're shooting high-end events, knowing the right people, which for me was critical. I knew the right people that helped get me in the door. And a little bit of luck too. It's hard. It's hard because so many people want to do this. And this is why even on my toughest days at the Olympics, I'm still happy to be there because I know how lucky I am to be there.
I can imagine. Yeah. So Michael's asked a question here. I know you've touched on this a little bit already as well. How do you cull your photos so quickly at the Olympics? Not the technical aspect of culling, but the creative choosing of which photos are worth posting immediately and which are not.
Yeah, so I use Photo Mechanic for going through my images. Almost every photographer at the Olympics uses Photo Mechanic because it's so fast. That's the technical. On the creative side, I think it's just a trained eye, having done this for so long. Also, when I'm shooting, I'm looking through the camera like there might be a break where the whistle blows and whatever, and I've gotten a couple seconds, and I'll look back like, oh, I got that shot with the puck coming right at the goaltender's face. And I'll remember that. So as I'm culling, I'm looking for that shot. So part of it is knowing what I shot in camera, or I could even rank it in camera. And then part of it is just going through them like, oh, I really like that one. Oh, I really like that one. And then going back and retouching those. It's a trained eye. And I do the same thing when I'm again, for everything I shoot. So it's a learned thing.
Yeah. Learned habit.
And this is where being ADD and ADHD really helps because my brain, as you can tell, is just always going. So I can do that process fast. Yeah.
Well, it certainly needs to be to keep up with everything you keep up with. It's incredible. The only one.
It's when I tell people my schedule, even my best friend said to me yesterday, like, I don't know how you do this because like I'm in a different country every month doing this, but I love it. So
yeah. I'm blown away by managing 3 different cameras with 3 different settings and 3 different lenses and remembering what all of those are set up for.
That's the easy part.
Amazing. So Popper has asked here, have you ever tried film photography in your work now in 2026?
Not now. I did back in the day. I've shot film before, not very well. What I do, honestly, I can't see ever shooting film. I shoot too much. I love the immediacy of seeing exactly what I'm getting. I know that there's a lot of people who love the vintage look and all that. That's not me. So,
yeah. Okay, Raina has asked a question here, and I'm hoping I'm understanding this correctly. And I think it's what you were talking about panning earlier. But when you're at major events like the Olympics, do you want your shutter drag or to lower your shutter? Do you not worry that your subjects won't be attached sharp?
Yeah.
I'm a crisp, sharp images. How do you manage that?
Absolutely dead on. I mean, Raina, I wish I could tell you that every photo I took was in focus when I'm motion panning. It's hard because you have to rely on you moving the exact right speed with your subject, and they can't bob their head or do something like that. So sure, And I will tell you that when I photograph like the short track speed skating or long track speed skating and I'm motion panning, I might shoot 800 images to get 4 or 5 that, because I'm like you, I'm really picky. I want that tack sharp. It takes a lot to get it. And do I worry about it? Sure, because it's hard to do. But because it's hard to do, that makes it more fun. And it yields a better result because not everybody can pull it off.
Great. One more question here, quite a technical one, which is useful, about your battery management. How does that work?
Honestly, this is going to be a really boring answer for Alexander, but believe it or not, most Olympics, I used 1 battery per camera per day. Like, I know that sounds crazy, but for my schedule and what I was shooting, like especially on the R1 with the large batteries, which I don't have one here with me right now, but I could go that thing all day long. So I had 3 with me of each, but almost never switched them out. And then when I get back to my hotel room around 1 in the morning, the first thing I do is slop the batteries in to be charged. Next morning, wake up, throw them back in the bag and do it again. But never took chargers with me. Didn't need to.
I guess that's one of those just learned workflows that just comes naturally after a while once you're used to it.
Well, and you always have backups. Like my son, who's also a photographer, he was shooting, he shot for me, and he was shooting something. And when I got back from the Olympics, I wasn't feeling well. So I said, hey, I need you to shoot this corporate thing for me. It was like 3 days after I got back from Milan. And he happened to be down in my area because he lives a couple hours away. And he's like, oh, I don't have any flashes with me. So I had to literally box up a bunch of flashes, call an Uber, and Uber my flashes to where the corporate client was so he could shoot. And I told him, I always carry flashes with me because you never know what you're going to be doing. Even though he's shooting video, you might have to shoot stills. You should be having flashes with you at all times. You have to look at what could happen.
Yeah, that's a very good point. We are really running out of time here. We've just got a few more questions. We'll just try and squeeze those in. So Magnus has asked, we'd love to learn about your post-editing. If you have any quick tips there you can give without...
Just go to jeffcable.com. And if you go to My Videos, which is listed under About, I believe, it's My Videos, and they're all free. And I have one all about how I retouch. The entire workflow is all in one video there. You'll see it. I think it's like 6 videos down, I think it is.
Wonderful. Great. So jeffcable.com, right, for that resource.
And by the way, for anybody who's still on, check out the blog because I always blog about what I'm doing at just blog.jeffcable.com.
Wonderful. Very helpful. Question here about the lighting for the team photo. Was that natural light or did you add strobes?
So the team photo, I shot both natural light because it was good lighting, but I actually did have a flash on camera at -1 just to pop just a little extra flash, get a little catch light in the eyes. That simple.
Brilliant. Thank you. And Ryan has asked here, so you shoot RAW with both cards. Do you shoot and deliver JPEGs for fast turnaround?
I don't. Here's what people don't understand. When you shoot RAW plus JPEG in a camera, it slows your camera down twice as long to write your images because it's writing a RAW file, then it has to reprocess to JPEG and write it again. So it slows your camera way down, and I have no use for a JPEG file until I deliver. And if I needed, let's say I shoot 800 images RAW of something, and I need those to be JPEG, well, I can go into Photo Mechanic, select all, save as, JPEG. And 2 minutes later, they're all JPEG. So I never shoot JPEG in camera unless I'm shooting a prototype camera for Canon because they sponsor me. There are times when I have a pre-release camera and nothing will open the RAW files, then I shoot with JPEG. But I prefer to shoot everything RAW.
That's a really good point. That's something probably a lot of people wouldn't know, that it takes longer to save for the camera to.
Most people do not know that because they think because the JPEG file is smaller, it'd actually be faster. It's not.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. Jake has asked, when you're shooting sports, do you use single point focus or people tracking? I shoot in a Canon R6.
Yep. Whether it's R6, R5, R1, R3, whatever. What I do is depends on the sport. If face and eye tracking works, which even with hockey it did very well, then I will use face and eye detection. For sports or wildlife that doesn't, I do dual back button focus. So I've got face and eye detection on the AF on button. The next button over to the right is the asterisk, which is generally for metering. I change that to single point focus, center point servo. So if this button doesn't work, my just thumb moves over and I switch to single point focus. So I can make that decision immediately. Generally, I try to use face and eye detection for everything I can.
Mm. Brilliant. And then one last question here from Michael. Are there any other events or anything at all that you have not shot yet but would love to?
Tons. I mean, one of the things I've not shot is the Northern Lights. And I'm leading a photo tour to Iceland at the end of this year to do that. That's in my bucket list. But there's plenty of things that I've not shot that I would like to. Whether it's landscapes or different sports, or I've shot one rodeo that was really fun, but I was early in my career. It'd be fun to do another one of those. So I mean, there's always something there's probably so many things that I can't even name them that I'd still like to shoot. And when you look at some of the photography, one of the questions that came up before about do I get inspired by other people? I'll see stuff that people are photographing like, God, I need to go there and try that. So there's a lot that I still not shot that I want to do.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful having that creative mind and that openness to learn and to travel and all these things. It opens endless possibilities, doesn't it?
Yeah, and like it's funny because some people go on vacation and they want to get a T-shirt or a mug or whatever. I want to come back with great photos. That defines my trip, which is kind of tough sometimes. Like when I go to Hawaii with my girlfriend, she's like, "Are you gonna bring a camera?" I'm like, "Of course I'm gonna bring a camera," and I try not to use it to keep her happy, but sometimes I can't help it. I gotta shoot. Yeah.
Yes, I can imagine. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of our Q&A. We managed to get through some great questions there. So thank you for sending those in, everybody. Really appreciate your interaction there. And thank you, Jeff, so much for joining us today, hearing how you approach both high-level sports and more personal event work and everything in between, and how you think about creativity, consistency, delivery. It's been incredibly valuable. So thank you so much. I know I've taken a lot away from this, and I'm sure everyone watching has as well. You mentioned your website. Is there any other way that people can reach out to you? Should we follow you on Instagram? What's the best way?
Instagram's Jeff Cable Photography, Facebook, Jeff Cable Photography, YouTube, I have a YouTube channel as well. But again, if anybody has any questions or if you want to know about photo tours or anything, just send me an email at jeff@jeffcable.com. That will get to me. And check out the website. I mean, the Zenfolio site. I've got all the Olympics up there, a lot of my favorite stuff. I've got my photo tours page there. And I just want to say thanks to everybody who joined in today, because it's fun to share the stories with everybody.
Wonderful, yeah. And for everyone joining us today, I hope the session's given you not only inspiration, but also something practical you can take home to your own work, whether it's how you shoot or how you approach your workflow or how you deliver your images to your clients. And as Jeff touched on, having the right tools in place, especially around organization, galleries, can make a huge difference as your business grows.
For sure.
So thank you very much, everyone. And thank you to Jeff again. Wonderful to speak to, always is. And thank you for giving so much value to our listeners today. So,
and I echo what you just said. Like, it's I appreciate it, and I hope everybody learns something, because really that's what ultimately I want people to do. I want people to be inspired and learn too, just like I do.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, thank you very much. It's very much appreciated from all of us. So brilliant. Well, we'll let you carry on with your trip. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Wishing you a wonderful rest of your day. And this recording will be up live in the next hour or so. So if anybody who missed it or had to leave, or it'll be there for a long time for everybody to watch. So thank you once again. Have a great day.